Welcome back to another video. So today we are back to actually talk not Chainsaw Man. We're actually going to be talking a different manga. So recently I've been keeping up with Jujutsu Kaisen. I've been getting kept up ever since a certain person that's came back. And so far we're in the most hype part of the manga and basically reaching the climax of this amazing fight. And I wanted to talk about it, just give my thoughts, quick thoughts, and just I want to laugh with y'all because I think this is hands down the best fight in JJK, but also the funniest fight in JJK. Every single week, waiting for the JJK leaks to come out, and then everyone going Team Gojo, Team Sukuna, like to see who's gonna actually win the fight. Because the one thing about JJK right now is that we don't actually know who's gonna win the fight. Like, you can't assume that Gojo's gonna win because he's the hero, and you can't also assume that Sukuna's gonna win because he's a godlike villain. It's really cool right now to see everyone in the community actually theorize about who's actually gonna win, and it's actually like amazing to see. It's amazing to see the community come together every single week with JJK and every single week whenever the leaks drop. But I want to make a video just me going over the entire fight because I reread the whole fight today, and I even read the new chapter leaks and stuff like that, and I want to just talk about it in a video and laugh with y'all for why I think this is hands down my favorite fight in JJK, but also the funniest fight. Like, this fight is not taking super serious, and I love that. Like, I think it's really funny, and I want to talk about that. So I'm gonna be giving two spoiler warnings. I'm giving a spoiler warning now. I'm gonna be spoiling a lot of JJK deep in the manga stuff. Like, we're not even gonna get close to this in the anime for a while. The anime is just getting to the Shibuya arc, so I don't want to spoil you if you haven't seen it yet. So if you don't want to get spoiled, click off now. Later in the video, I'll also be giving a spoiler for the new chapter 235 that hasn't come out yet by the time this video comes out, but the leaks have come out, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit at the end of the video. I'll leave a timestamp and stuff like that, and I'll warn you again just in case you don't want to see those leaks because the chapter is not out yet. But anyway, I want to get into it. So the fight really starts off with basically Gojo and Sukuna doing these hand-to-hand stuff, like just messing around and shit like that. They're not really fighting for real, right? And I think it's actually like really cool. Like, a lot of the fight is a lot of hand-to-hand, which is nice to see because in my opinion, I love when JJK characters get to use their abilities, but also just fight hand-to-hand. That's also why I like Yuji a lot, because Yuji just be left, right, good night, Yuji Itadori, just like fighting and stuff like that, especially in a series where a bunch of people use hacks abilities and stuff like that, which we're going to talk about in this fight because both these characters are extremely hacked, right? So another thing about this fight though is that this fight has been like hinted at and like hyped up since the first chapter, and I believe that this fight has lived up to all the expectations in my opinion. I know some people don't believe that, but for me, I do, because I'm gonna talk more about the fight, but like everything in this fight was just so perfect to me. It's just so fire, so cool and stuff like that. So they're doing hand-to-hand combat, but then basically both Gojo and Sukuna realize that they're not going to be able to do anything really with just going to hand-to-hand combat, and they realize that probably the smartest thing to do is to just spam domain expansion. I don't know why, but I'm telling you, that panel where it shows like Gojo and Sukuna just spamming domain expansions and just going crazy with like Sukuna's malevolent shrine and then Gojo's domain expansion, it was just so funny, especially because they're both like, when you activate your domain expansion in another domain expansion, both of the like guaranteed hits don't, like, it's not guaranteed anymore because both of y'all domain expansions like in like going against each other and stuff like that. This is another reason like it's hard for me to explain JJK stuff. Anything I get wrong in this video, let me know down in the comments below and tell me what I got wrong and stuff like that. But it was really funny seeing them spam it, and then at the beginning it looked like Sukuna had the upper hand because we actually saw like Gojo like draw blood, which you haven't seen that in a long time. We haven't seen that since the flashback arc with him and Toji. So when we first saw Gojo like draw blood from Sukuna, I wasn't really surprised by it because, you know, this is like a fight that's been hyped up since the beginning. It would be crazy if Sukuna wasn't able to get past Gojo's like invulnerability. And so that was really cool, and it looked like Sukuna would like had the upper hand. Like, Gojo was like bleeding and shit like that, constantly getting hit by Sukuna's like slices from his like domain expansion. And luckily, like, Gojo able to got the upper hand and actually like got to push like Sukuna away. And also like both of them are like the best of the best in terms of using curse energy. So like all this damage they're taking is like cool, but they're also like healing because they have reverse curse technique and stuff like that. They're the best at that. So it's really cool seeing these characters like beat the hell out of each other, but also be able to just heal that shit off. And we even see like Gojo have like a bunch of like scratches and shit on him and stuff like that. But later on, Gojo manages to get like an upper hand on Sukuna, right, by using his domain expansion and actually getting able to pass actually Sukuna's like malevolent shrine and actually like beat it. And then right when like Gojo is about to like put the hands on Sukuna actually ends up scaring Gojo by actually pulling out Maharaga, which I may pronounce that wrong multiple times in this video. Please forgive me. Which is really, really cool. We know the Maharaga because the Maharaga is part of the 10 Shadows technique and is the main reason we believe why Sukuna wanted Megami's body, because the Maharaga has not lost to any single 10 Shadows user. It's only lost to Sukuna so far, and then something else we're going to talk later on. But I also want to ask a question for anyone that's really caught up on JJK. Is the reason that Sukuna is able to control the Maharaga because of that time in Shibuya when Sukuna took over Yuji's body and actually beat the Maharaga whenever Megami pulled out the 10 Shadows technique? Was he actually pulled out Maharaga? Was he able to control Maharaga now because he already beat Maharaga back then? Because the way that the 10 Shadows technique works is that you're basically able to summon these like beasts, which I think are called Shikigami or something like that. And the only way you're able to control them is if you beat them in combat. And no 10 Shadows user has beaten Maharaga in combat, so they've never been able to control it. But Sukuna, we believe, is the first character to ever beat it, and he beat it in Shibuya. So is that the reason why he's able to like command Maharaga and like tell it to do things? Because Megami was never able to do that. So if you know the answer to that, let me know down below. I'm not sure, but I would love to hear the answer if y'all know. And so they basically like Gojo's basically like kind of worried about fighting Maharaga, because if y'all don't know, Maharaga's ability is that it's able to adapt to anything, any curse technique, any fighting style, anything. And so Gojo's really not trying to like try to deal with that. Like he even like Maharaga even like adapts to Unlimited Void, so he can't really like use his domain expansion like that, right? And they're both like kind of like talking to each other. Like Maharaga gets pulled away because Sukuna doesn't really want to use it yet, and he's just like, yo, like I got this guy, like you're not gonna be able to really like stop me and stuff like that. And then also telling Gojo like, you also slipping, and Gojo's like, what you talking about? And like blood comes from his nose, and we learned that from Gojo spamming domain expansion, it actually has like an effect on his body. And like I said earlier, reverse curse technique is able to like heal things and stuff like that. It's a curse, like you be able to heal your body and stuff like that, but you only can do it so much, and it actually affects the brain, and that's why he's bleeding from his brain. They talk about how like he wasn't able to he can't just keep spamming that shit, right? And so Sukuna's like talking shit, right? This is the funniest panel, right? This is when he really enters like Mickey Mouse shit. Cause he tells him this. He's basically like talking that shit, telling Gojo like after Gojo falls down on his knees because of him being affected by spamming domain expansion, and telling him like, goodbye, strongest sorcerer. Turns out you were lucky to be born in an era when I wasn't around. It's why you're so mediocre. And then Sukuna's ready to like to use his domain expansion. He's just like, you can't use yours, I'm gonna use mine, nigga. And then as soon as he does that shit, boom, his domain expansion blows up from behind him, and it turns out Sukuna is also affected by spamming domain expansion, but also affected by the limited void that was hit by him a long time ago. And so just like Gojo, they both took enough damage to their brain that they couldn't open a domain expansion. And then this is when Gojo puts the hands on Sukuna, bro. This is when like I was like, when I first read the volumes and stuff, I was like, okay, Sukuna's a fraud, bro, because Sukuna be talking all that shit, bro. And it's so crazy that he talked that, because right now he's using all of Megami's abilities, right? The 10 Shadows technique. And he's only able to like basically Gojo away now because of Maharaga, because Gojo has beaten his domain expansion and stuff like that. So that means if he didn't have the Maharaga, he would lose, which makes it funnier, because that means if Gojo was back then in the day, back in that era, he probably could have just beaten Sukuna like at this point. And I think that's hilarious. It's kind of feeling like when you talk about basketball and older basketball players try to talk about how this basketball player in the current day couldn't like handle it back in the day. But in my opinion, I don't like that for all players. Like I feel like certain players are just going to be super good in any era they're going to be in, and I think that's Gojo. Like Gojo's going to be that type of person that's going to be good in any era. So I thought that was hilarious when that happened. I started busting ass laughing, because I'm telling you, he started rocking Sukuna. Like he was literally like dragging him through walls, just throwing him and laughing his ass off, bro, and beating the hell out of him with red and blue and stuff like that, using his ability. And bro, if Sukuna did not have the Maharaga, bro, he would be flipping patties, bro. Like, and even like Gojo does a cool thing where he hits him with the Black Flash and like knocks the fuck out of Sukuna. And like you see Sukuna like falling to his knees, right? And you see the Maharaga basically like the whole turntable on his head fall down. And then Maharaga gets summoned. Sukuna summons him, and basically like now it's hacks, bro. Now it's like Maharaga and Sukuna finna jump Gojo, and then Gojo has to fight at such a high level because he can't like use Unlimited Void because Maharaga's already adapted to it. And then like he can't just spam his abilities, because if he does, then Maharaga's gonna get like adapted to it, and then he's gonna be unstoppable, right? And so the next chapter is so funny because this is when Sukuna's like really using like underhanded tactics to win the battle, which I'm not mad at him for. Like, I feel like if you're in a fight, you should be able to use whatever you want, especially in an anime fight. But when you've been talking all that mess for months about how you're gonna beat the fuck out of Gojo, and you're resorting to using a fire extinguisher as a distraction, that is hilarious, bro. That is so funny, right? And so later on, right, Gojo's thinking about how he's gonna take down La Maharaga and stuff like that, and fight Sukuna, and basically talk about how he can't like spam his domain expansion and stuff like that, and to also talk about how Sukuna can't use domain expansion, Malevolent Shine, and a 10 Shadows technique at the same time. So he's like thinking about how to do this, right? And then like Sukuna says this one thing. He says, "Don't get the wrong idea. This isn't 2 against 1, because remember it's Maharaga and Sukuna, right?" He summons another beast called Agito? I'm gonna call it Agito. I think that's how it's pronounced, right? And he got both of them. So it's 3 against 1, right? And this is when it was so funny, bro. Y'all should have been on TikTok and Twitter when this chapter came out and the leak came out, bro. Because they were drawing Sukuna with like a dad and a mom, bro. Talking about like how like if he did not have these two right now, he'd be flipping patties, bro. He would be cooked. And I thought that shit was so funny, bro. And even like Gojo talks about it, showing like you look like a lost alien, showing like 2 parents and like a kid and shit like that on the bottom right corner. Bro, that shit was so funny, bro. And they start jumping like Gojo, right? They start jumping him and stuff like that. Gojo's even realizing that Agito has like regeneration and stuff like that. And Gojo's like so crazy because he's fighting at such an extreme level right now, because one, he has to make sure he doesn't spam his techniques or use his techniques like that, because if he hits Maharaga, then Maharaga's gonna get used to it. But then he also like needs to defend himself, so like he's kind of in a sticky situation, right? And he even gets like caught up where basically Gojo gets like caught off guard, like where his whole right arm gets cut off, which I'm not that like crazy about it, because you know, reverse curse technique and stuff like that, I'm not really spazzing about that. So as soon as that happened, we're like, oh shit, he lost his arm. And then you all thinking like, oh shit, is Sukuna got the jump on Gojo? He's getting jumped by 3 people. And then Gojo's like looking at Agito, and he's like, you haven't been able to keep up like the rest of them, bro. And like one shot to Agito, bro. That shit was so cool, bro. When that happened, it was so funny, because when I read the leaks or heard the leaks, I didn't know that Agito got cooked in 1 chapter. Like Sukuna brought Agito just to get cooked, bro. And it was so funny, bro. And knocked Agito out with blue, right? And luckily like he hit Agito with the blue, not Maharaga. So Maharaga couldn't adapt to it, or I believe so. And so that happens, right? Where basically like Gojo defeats like Agito. And then Gojo's like, okay, I gotta use like Hollow Purple basically to end this fight. And so that's basically where the manga's at right now. But I'm going to be talking about chapter 35 leaks. I'm going to be talking about it because I really want to talk about it and stuff like that. I'm not going to show any panels at all, because I do not want this video to get cooked. Because I know sometimes if you show leaks for chapters that are not out yet officially, you can get cooked. So I'm not going to show any of the panels at all. And also, if you don't want to get spoiled for the chapter that's coming out in like 2 days, I believe so, click off now. But let's talk about it. So the fight continues and stuff like that, and Gojo's fighting both Sukuna and the Maharaga, right? But then Sukuna has to like, he's basically trying to stop Gojo, because Gojo realizes that like, yo, I need to use red and blue and basically like create purple, which is his ability, like, you know, hollow purple and stuff like that. And he starts to use a full incantation, because a full incantation supposedly in JJK is more powerful than just using the ability. Like if you use the full incantation, it makes it stronger, because I guess when you use a full incantation, you're telling the opponent what you're trying to do, which makes the move stronger, which is basically like a binding vow. So basically Gojo was doing that to basically like make purple stronger, right? And so he starts doing that, and like Sukuna's like realizing what he's doing and trying to stop him and stuff like that, and even tries to get Maharaga to get hit by blue so that he can adapt to it and stuff like that, and hopefully destroy blue so that Sukuna couldn't create purple. And it was so cool what Gojo did, because Gojo shot like a red, and like shot red in the air, and actually like psyched out basically like Sukuna with it, and made like Sukuna go like made Sukuna make Maharaga go to the red, and then Gojo like faked him out with this shit, and it was so fire, bro. And like, it was it was so cool, bro. I'm trying to explain it. I'm trying to explain it the best way I can, but I'm just telling you, like, Gojo was just him in that moment, right? And then at the end, right, when he psyched out Maharaga and Sukuna with how like blue and red worked, he was able to actually like combine them, and he did Hollow Purple and like nuked like it looked like he nuked the entire city, bro. That shit was so fire, man. Like he was able to get that full incantation and combine red and blue to create Hollow Purple, and they got cooked. Like Maharaga got cooked, and that's why I kind of hinted at earlier. And I think Gojo's like the second character ever to beat Maharaga, which out of anyone I would believe that could beat Maharaga, it's definitely gonna be probably like Kenjaku, Sukuna, and Gojo. So I was like, it was really, really cool to see Gojo just cook Maharaga and just end him, right? And then now after that explosion, right, which exploded not only just like Sukuna, it also exploded Gojo, right? And Sukuna was like walking out leaking, missing an, and Gojo starts rocking out like leaking, lost an arm and stuff like that. And then Gojo starts talking that shit. Gojo's like, you know, it's crazy, like I had to use that Hollow Purple and it hit me too, but you know, it's my own curse energy, so it didn't affect me that bad. You leaking, bro. And then the side characters start talking, saying like, yo, that's crazy, because now Sukuna can't use domain expansion and can't use Maharaga, so Gojo is the strongest. Gojo's won basically the fight, and that's the last thing that the chapter ends off on. And bro, I'm trying to, like, me talking about it doesn't do the fight as much justice, bro. Y'all need to go read the fight if you're caught up. If you're not caught up, like, please catch up, because this fight is so fucking fire. Maybe because I just like Gojo a lot, and I like seeing him style on Sukuna, but also like I like seeing him, like, he has to think a lot with this fight. He's not like just doing things and like things just happen. Like, he's actually like having to think about what he's doing while he's fighting, and this is like the pinnacle of JJK's like power system, because we're seeing reverse curse techniques, we're seeing domain expansions, we're seeing like cursed energy being used in certain ways, we're seeing the 10 shadows technique, we're seeing like all this like peak, and simple domains. We even saw simple domains and stuff like that. Like, we're seeing the peak of just JJK power system, and I think that's one of the best things about this fight, is that we're seeing everything that this power system that has been shown for like 200 plus chapters led up to. Like, besides this fight leading up to just two really powerful characters in the verse fighting, it also is like leading up to like seeing JJK's power system in the peak, like the peak of a JJK fight, the peak of what these powers can do. And it was just so cool. I don't know who's gonna win the fight. It looks like they're saying like Gojo's winning. It looks like Gojo's won the fight, and to me Gojo's already won, because like if Sukuna did not have Maharaga, then like Gojo would have been cooked his ass. But knowing how anime works and manga works, something's probably gonna happen next chapter which catches like Gojo off guard, or maybe Kenjaku does something and Gojo's basically out the fight or something. But that's basically it. Also, we're not getting JJK for a while. I think JJK is coming back at the end of the month. It's taking a 1 week break, so we're not gonna be seeing JJK for a minute. But that's everything I wanted to talk about with this fight. It's just so funny. It's such a funny fight. Like, as soon as that man threw the fire extinguisher, and like seeing Gojo talking that shit with Sukuna, and I just love it because they both talk shit. Like, they're both shit talkers so bad. Like, they both like to talk that shit, which I think makes it funnier when Sukuna got cooked, because he was talking all that shit to Gojo ever since the first chapter, and then now like he had to like work on that shit, like he had to like live up to that shit, and then him getting cooked is so funny. I think that's why I like it so much. Some people don't like how Sukuna is basically getting bitched right now, but I feel like some of y'all haven't watched Shonen for real, because this is what happens when a character is talking shit. A lot of times they're gonna get humbled. Like, you like Dragon Ball, Vegeta got humbled, Frieza got humbled, Cell got humbled. No one cared that really didn't get humbled, like Majin Buu, I guess. Subaru did. Subaru got humbled. Like, Shonen, like Naruto, Madara got humbled. Like, it just happens, right? That's just what happens with Shonen. And I think that JJK is doing it good, because Sukuna's not like, he's a fraud, but he's still like doing cool stuff. It's not like Sukuna's getting totally bitched. Like, he's been getting the upper hand on Gojo, but then, you know, Gojo's that guy. So he's still a fraud. He's still like, I said he wasn't getting that bitched. He's getting bitched a little bit, I ain't gonna lie, but I think he's still cool. I don't think anyone's like, people that think that that's generally ruined Sukuna, I don't understand that. But let me know down below how you feel about the fight. If you feel like the fight isn't cool, or you feel like that Gojo, like you felt like Sukuna got basically underwhelmed and stuff like that, let me know down below. I would love to hear y'all thoughts. But that's everything how I feel about this fight. I don't know if I'm talking about more JJK. in depth, because I feel like I'm not the best at explaining the power system, and it's kind of hard for me to comprehend sometimes, so I don't want to talk about it as much if I can't like explain it as best as I can. But if y'all want to see more of me just like rambling about how cool something is and just talking about how funny it was, let me know down below and I'll definitely do more of this. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.